We are live with Now You See TV, and this is John Pounders. And tonight we got an interesting roundtable discussion here. We're talking about Trump. We're talking about, is he chosen by God? There are various prophecies of different people that I've seen put out videos that they think about Trump, what they think who he is, what he's done, what he's going to do. And we're going to discuss that tonight and kind of discuss the election in general. And but before we start, there is a prophecy that a man gave in 2011, and I'll get his name after this broadcast, after the show here, because I'll have to research it. I can't remember, but I have the audio here, so we're going to listen to that, and we will be right back to talk a little bit about it, and also just talk about the election in general. It was amazing. It was a crazy night last night. Let's put it that way. I was up till we did a 5.5 hour broadcast last night. We were up till 1 o'clock in the morning until we finally decided he won after he won Pennsylvania. And for those of you that stuck around with us and hung out with us, it was a great time. We had a lot of people call in, and we might do call-ins tonight depending on how long we go and all that good stuff. I'm also going to Josh and Jake, our guests, and David. Of course, David is on with us very often. He's trying to get his microphone working right now, but Josh Rahutsky from Seek for Truth, also at Skywatch, and he also does a show on the Sharpening Report. And, of course, Josh Peck from the Sharpening Report and Skywatch TV are on tonight as well. So we have a really good lineup. We should get a lot of good opinions on this stuff and be able to talk pretty good about it. So I'm going to go ahead and play this audio real quick. Give me 1 second to get this going. I'm going to play it. You guys let me know if you can hear it.
In 2011.
You guys hear that?
You're good.
And I saw Donald Trump on TV. And all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm hearing the voice of a president. So I went into my office and I sat down and I started writing what God was saying. Now I'll read the prophecy first, and then I'll go back and give maybe some details, if that's okay. Would that be all right?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So I titled the prophecy Commander-in-Chief. And it says, the Spirit of God says, I have chosen this man, Donald Trump, for such a time as this. For as Benjamin Netanyahu is to Israel, so shall this man be to the United States of America. For I will use this man to bring honor, respect, and restoration to America. America will be respected once again as the most powerful and prosperous nation on earth other than Israel. The dollar will be the strongest it has ever been in history of the United States and will once again be the currency by which all others are judged. The Spirit of God says the enemy will quake and shake and fear this man I have anointed. They will even quake and shake when he announces he is running for president. It will be like the shot heard across the world.
Memes. I didn't make
the enemy
those.
will say, what shall we do now? This man knows all our tricks and schemes. We have been robbing America for decades. What shall we do to stop this? The Spirit says, ha, no one shall stop this that I have started. For the enemy has stolen from America for decades, and it stops now. For I will use this man to reap the harvest that the United States has sown for and plunder from the enemy what he has stolen and return it sevenfold back to the United States. The enemy will say, Israel, Israel, what about Israel? For Israel will be protected by America once again. The Spirit says, yes, America will once again stand hand in hand with Israel, and the two shall be as one. For the ties between Israel and America will be stronger than ever, and Israel will flourish like never before. The Spirit of God says, I will protect America and Israel, for this next president will be a man of his word. When he speaks, the world will listen and know that there is something greater in him than all the others before him. This man's word is his bond, and the world and America will know this, and the enemy will fear this, for this man will be fearless. The Spirit says when the financial harvest begins, so shall it parallel in the spiritual for America. The Spirit of God says in this next election, they will spend billions to keep this president in. It will be like flushing their money down the toilet. Let them waste their money, for it comes from and is being used by evil forces at work, but they will not succeed. For this next election will be a clean sweep for the man that I have chosen. They will say things about this man, the enemy, but it will not affect him. They shall say it rolls off of him like the duck. For as the feathers of a duck protect it, so shall my feathers protect this next president. Even mainstream news media will be captivated by this man and the abilities that I have gifted him with, and they will even begin to agree with him, says the Spirit of God.
Amazing. This is truly amazing. Mark, it reads like you wrote it last week.
Right.
That's why it took me back so strongly.
All right, guys. So that's the prophecy. There's a little bit of talking afterward about what's going on there. But it was pretty interesting, I thought, for sure, when I heard it. And this was, according to them, verified that he wrote this in 2011. before he knew Trump was running. He thought he was going to run in 2012, I guess, is what he said afterwards. And this was the prophecy. Before we get started, welcome to the show, Josh and Jake and David. It's great to have you guys. Josh, we'll start with you first. Tell a little bit about yourself. Just tell people what you do. And you're also into the multiverse as well. I forgot to mention that. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into this prophecy.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me back on again. It's always good talking to you. And I want to thank you for your support of the Sharpening Report, which is a show that I created. And now Jake Rahutsky, one of the other guests in the panel tonight, and another guy, James DeWitt, are hosting. So I want to thank you for that. And same with David, thank you for being on the show a couple different times. Very, very good shows. For those who aren't familiar with me, I work with Skywatch TV. I have a couple of books out, Quantum Creation and Cherubim Chariots. I also have Revising Reality, which is a book that Doug Woodward, Anthony Patch, Gon Shimura, and myself put together. And of course, all of this is at sharpeningreport.com. I have the website on my lower third there if people want to check it out. I'm also just about to release a book with Tom Horn called Abaddon Ascending. So it's been a pretty busy year for me, but that's basically all that I've been involved with over this past year. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about this election. It's completely different than anything else I think we've ever seen, and yeah, we're living in strange times.
There's no doubt about that. This is a strange election, strange times. I think a lot of the listeners here, not all of us voted. I did not vote personally because I never really felt like our vote counted. But at the same time, I'm thrilled that Hillary did not win. Let's put it that way. And I couldn't say enough bad things about her. I guess you could say. But Jake, well, let's get to you. Jake, tell a little bit about yourself, and then David, and then we'll get to the show.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, John?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, so basically I started a program years ago called Seek for Truth on YouTube. And John actually is one of the first people that I reached out to when I decided I wanted to do a program. I started out basically with an audio podcast. Did that for a long time, and eventually I moved over into video, but I've been collaborating with John for a long time behind the scenes. We've kind of been encouraging each other and seeing all kinds of growth in his program. And basically God opened up a door for me to come to Skywatch TV to work there. I got to meet Josh, and just an amazing guy, and he opened up an opportunity for me to host the Sharpening Report. And so now I'm hosting the Sharpening Report for Josh Peck and with Josh Peck. I'm still doing kind of my Seek for Truth program, although I haven't done much with that lately. And then I'm also on Truth Frequency Radio now on Thursday nights from basically 10 to midnight every Thursday night. So that's pretty much what I've been doing, along with producing testimonies of individuals that have like amazing testimonies. I'm going to get with a guy here in the next couple weekends to produce testimony of Brandon Schlinn. He's got a really cool story. So that's pretty much it, man. Excited to be here to meet up with you on Now You See TV again, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's been a blessing to see how far you've come from when we first got together, and both of us really. I mean, when we both started talking and hanging out, and actually we met up in Texas even and shot a little video there, and just to see what God's done in each of our lives since then, and we've been pretty good friends for the last I guess it's been 2 years, almost.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years now. Yeah, it was a total God connection. You know, sometimes in our lives things like that happen where God will connect you with a particular individual. And I can honestly say, man, this has been the case for me with you, as it was a total God connection, as well as Josh Peck and various other people I've met too.
No doubt about it. And David's another one of these God connections. David lives in Evansville, Indiana. One of my, I guess I respect him almost more than anybody in the world as far as a person of learning goes, a person of integrity. And so I want to welcome David to the show again. David, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for your kind words, John. How's the audio going?
It's still not your headset microphone, but you can hear you. So,
is it good enough to do the broadcast, or
It'll be just fine. Yeah, it's not horrible, but you will need to mute yourself when you're not talking because there's a lot of background noise. But it's okay, we can hear you still.
all righty. And just everybody pray for us that we can get all of our technical and computer problems resolved. It's really been aggravating, but I just appreciate your kind words, and we appreciate the connection that we've had with John and now UCTV. It's been a tremendous blessing for us, and also we've been blessed to do numerous projects with Jake that have also borne some good fruit, and we've been able to work with Josh on his sharpening report. So we're just thankful for all of these opportunities, and we're just thankful to be able to be on and discuss this topic tonight.
Good deal. We're hearing somebody hammering something. You got construction.
An angel just got its wings, John. So
Yeah,
I just want to let the audience know tonight, an angel just got its wings. Praise the Lord.
Of shutting our fan. That is my staff shutting down the fan. So.
Oh, I thought she was beating on the computer. I'm pretty angry about it.
Better.
I thought maybe it was winter chicken dinner, or I'm not sure. Anyways.
So, guys, what did you guys think about that prophecy you just heard on that? I mean, obviously, it's interesting to say the least. If it really was from 2011, very interesting. What do you guys think?
Well, I'll chime in first because I actually I heard this back. I think you brought it to my attention, John, right after you saw this video. This is actually just when he first started to run for president. And I remember when Donald Trump first started to run, John was telling me, he's like, I think this is the guy. And I was like, John, you're crazy. How could Donald Trump? No, I'm like, dude, you're off your rocker. This is just a distraction, whatever. And here we are. And now he's president. I cannot believe it. Just what's happened over this period of time. But I listened to that video after I talked to you, and the hair stood up on the back of my neck. It was just such a powerful video. And look, guys, I'm not saying just because they say the Lord showed them something that always means it's true. You have to look at the fruit of the person's life and then weigh it out and kind of see what happens. It's a wait and see situation. I believe there could be some truth to this, man. I'm seeing a lot of stuff that this guy talked about, even in the videos, start to come to pass. So, God talked to people all throughout the Bible. I don't see why he can't talk to them still today. So, to me, man, I think there's some credit to it in the whole scenario. But to me, it is still just mind blowing because he talks about just so many things that are basically going on with our political system and stuff, and that basically Trump will push back a lot of this darkness and basically push a lot of this occult, corrupt stuff out of our country that's been going on behind the scenes. And right up before the election, you saw this occultism and corruption being exposed like never before. It was insane, man. Up until the day of the election, it was like scandal after scandal after scandal being uncovered. Who knows what else is still out there that hasn't been revealed. But to me, man, I'm just seeing some of these things come to pass. So for now, my opinion on it is I believe there probably is that this guy's on the money.
Interesting. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I remember when right around the time when, like Jake, when Trump was first starting to run. I didn't see the video, but I saw an article that was written about it, and I read the prophecy. And at the time, and just for those who aren't familiar with me and the types of things I believe, I totally do believe that the gifts of the Holy Spirit are for today, just as they were back in the time of the apostles. But the problem is there are so many out there who claim to have the gifts, especially of prophecy, and a lot of them fall flat. So I was cautiously optimistic, I guess. When I first read the article, I didn't know what to do with it. I figured, well, let's file this away until later and see if anything pans out. It'd be great if it did, but there's also hundreds of these, and they all say different things, and so it's hard to tell. But now that a lot of it has actually come to pass, that's got me and a lot of other people wondering, well, does that lend more evidence that it was a prophecy directly from God, or is this just a lucky guess? And like Jake said, I think it's a wait and see situation, but I sure am hoping that this is the real deal, and I'm hoping that this prophecy was truly from God, and that this individual was speaking on his behalf. But again, I'm still remaining cautiously optimistic, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. That's the same way boat I'm in, is wait and see. I don't know what to think of this, because up to this point, I've never trusted anything the government's ever done, and not saying that I do now. But David, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Well, as I was watching Now You See TV last night, the video that you played of Bill Schnabelen, I believe Bill really put his finger on the problem, as he has a way of doing. And the Hillary Clinton is more than just politically and morally wrong. They are driven by an occult agenda, an occult engine, I believe, as Bill put it. They are directly tied to extremely bad people that are doing blood rituals. And if Hillary Clinton would have been elected, this would have been the judgment of God upon our nation. I have no doubt about it. And just the fact that she was not elected gives me hope. And today, I really feel a spiritual lifting. I feel like there has been a break of oppression, and I'm really surprised how much I'm feeling it. I really am, because I believe the dark powers that were driving Hillary's train, if you will, have suffered a defeat. And in Daniel 11:1, it says, also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And this talks about Darius, the king of Persia, being aided by an angel. And I believe that insofar as Mr. Trump opposes this globalist agenda, I believe the Lord will stand with him. And I believe that we have an opportunity. And I think that today we have a better chance of broadcasting for 4 more years than we would if Hillary Clinton would have been elected. So for that reason, I am happy that she was defeated, and for others. But this is for us. And you know, my perspective is a kingdom perspective. Whoever rules this country, my job, and I know the job of every believer, is to build the kingdom of God, irregardless of who runs this government. And I think this is an opportunity for God's people to pray for real revival. Revival that will really touch the political and religious corruption in this country. A revival that will deal with Freemasonry, just like Charles Finney did. So I don't know that I've been praying for this, but I think I have faith to pray for this today much more than I did yesterday. So this is my hope and my heart, that this will be a time and a season when God's people will see a true move of the Spirit of God that will get to the core of the political and religious corruption in this country. And as the remnant, I believe that we can show the way to real revival.
Awesome. Yeah. My feedback on that too, David, is just that I think you're right, man. All the political corruption and everything going on here in America, I think it's finally coming to the forefront. It's finally being exposed, and I think that the enemy has been dealt a big blow, that their person didn't get in. Now, a lot of people say that Trump is still an establishment guy and that he's still all part of the plan and the scheme. And you know what? Time will tell. We'll have to see what happens with that. I do find one thing interesting is that I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Simpsons scenario back in, was it like 2000? The Simpsons predicted, they basically had a scenario where Trump became president. There's a lot of similar pictures of Trump in poses on the show as far as what happened in reality. And actually the states in the show, they show the color map of the states when he wins his election, and it's very similar to what happened the other night. It's almost identical. So I don't know if that's just coincidence, or maybe, maybe the people operating the Simpsons are in touch with some familiar spirits. It's not beyond the realm of reason for occultism to operate in Hollywood. Go ahead, John.
No, I was going to say, I've heard that Simpsons episode is actually a fraud.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I've heard. Yep, I've heard the same thing.
Okay. Well, scratch that, guys.
Yeah, and I've known a lot of people shared it, and honestly, I've shared it before. I thought, I'm like, wow, this is insane. But then I looked at the actual past episodes; there was nothing like it. And then somebody had, I guess, said that they had made it after Trump ran, after all the different things, and so it seemed like a predictive programming, definitely, because it's really hard to know. I mean, I don't know how many hundreds and thousands of Simpsons episodes there are out there, but it wouldn't be hard to filter through all of them. I'm glad somebody did debunk it. But so last night, or I guess early this morning, what did you guys think about his speech that he made? Because I was expecting him to say something like, all right, now it's time to kick heads in, or now it's time to do something like this, because I wasn't expecting him to say, I got off the phone with Hillary and this and that, because during the actual process, he was talking about putting her in prison, and I'm hoping that he still does that. I'll be happy if he does. I'm worried that a lot of the things that he said were blowing smoke after hearing that speech. And of course, you can't judge everything after hearing a speech or whatever. But what did you guys think when you heard that?
Yeah, I actually had a different perspective from the speech. When I heard it, I actually was encouraged, because I too expected him to, come out guns blazing, saying, all right, it's time to clean house. But it wasn't the time for that. And I think he recognized that. He recognized that really to heal this country, there needs to be unity. There needs to be some type of unity between the liberals and the conservatives. And that doesn't mean that we as conservatives have to sacrifice any of our ideals or anything like that. It's not a compromise. But in order for unity to happen, it's not us against them. We're and I never agree with Obama, but like Obama said, we're all Americans, and once in 8 years, I guess maybe he can say something I can agree with. But it's true, we all are Americans, and if Trump truly does want unity and to heal, or at least make an attempt to get the ball rolling on healing the land, if he wants that more than his own pride and victory, then that's the exact speech that he would have made. So when I heard it, I was kind of encouraged, and also I think that it helps. I think there is a little bit of psychology behind that too. It helps put the Democrats in a place where they can feel comfortable letting this transition happen smoothly. So it's not. Can you imagine if the next 70 some odd days were as contentious as the race was, and how difficult the transition between our current president and the new president would be? I mean, it would be awful. So at least I think that was a good first step at getting to where we need to be. And then once he's in the White House, then we'll see what happens. But for me, at least, it was kind of encouraging. Now I could be totally wrong, but that's kind of how I saw it.
No, yeah, and I think it was a good way to at least appease the people, not so much the politicians, with the people, because I mean, most of us, when I listened, I was kind of like, I mean, this isn't what I expected to hear. But at the same time, I could see that if I was on the opposing end of this argument, if I was a Hillary supporter, or I don't think anybody was really a Hillary supporter. I think there were people that were Democrat that voted for Hillary, but I can't see that anybody actually really liked that choice of her. But if I was on the other end of the stick, I would want to hear something like that, and hopefully that at least appeased those people. Now, throughout the campaign, though, it was a pretty it was almost like WWE. I mean, they were just dogging each other down left and right, especially Trump, making the comments that he made. Trump is a very brash person, which I can kind of connect with because the reason I think, the things that he said were really, they appealed to people that were tired of being pushed around the government. They were tired of voting for people that got into office, didn't do anything they said they were going to do. It didn't matter if it was Republican or Democrat. They were all in this little good old boy system together. And I really hope that he doesn't put a lot of people in his cabinet, a lot of people in his corner that are career politicians. I really hope that, because I hope that he comes in and cleans house. And that's the thing that I'm a wait and see as well, because hopefully he will do what he says he's going to do. Because if he just puts another, all these little politicians in his corner and stuff, I'm not going to have any faith that he's going to do anything that he said he's going to do.
Real quick, John, I just wanted to throw this out there. Have you ever heard of the Illuminati card game? And do you think there's anything to it? Have you heard of that?
I mean, I've heard of it. Do I think there's anything to it? Maybe. I don't know. I've never really studied it as well enough to know if it's been predictive or anything like that. I know that there is one that shows him being assassinated, if that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that real quick, because a viewer in the audience said something about that. I hadn't heard that before, but that would be interesting to follow up on. I'm not real familiar with the Illuminati card games, but if someone has that source or a link, if you can send it to me, I'd definitely like to see it. So,
yeah, I can't remember where I saw it. Somebody shared it a while back. But David, when you're ready to talk, man, you just wave your hand. I'll turn you up. But if I keep you up, there's a lot of. Oh, there you go. There we are.
All righty. I think that this is a really good time for us to be obedient to the scripture that says to pray for those that are in political office and our rulers. And what Mr. Trump will do, he has absolutely proved everyone wrong that has tried to predict what he will do. So we will just truly have to wait and see. But I do believe that he does nothing else but oppose globalism in rolling back these trade agreements and opposing this globalist agenda. I believe the Lord will help him insofar as he will do that, because that is the satanic Illuminist agenda. There's no doubt about it. But we do not have a political solution to the problems in America. Our problem is moral. The church has ceased to be the conscience of our nation, and only a moral, deep repentance is going to heal our land. There's no political solution, and this is my great hope. And one thing that I think really needs to be pointed out, if we're going to show the way to revival, there was a spirit that was on the Clinton campaign and the Trump campaign that was not of God. It was a dog-eat-dog, devour one another spirit, and that same spirit is upon people that are professing to be Christians and upon ministries. And I want to read a scripture for everybody tonight with a warning. Revelation 21:8 says, "But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death." It is a damnable sin to lie about people and to just rashly make accusations against people. So I pray for everyone that makes accusations and calls names. I hope you're right, because if you're not, you could damn your own soul. But the sad truth is that there are individuals and ministries that feed off this type of thing, just like you saw the Clinton and the Trump campaign feed off this spirit that was driving them. And this is not the spirit that's going to bring revival. This is not the spirit that's holy. And I think we need to really examine our hearts to allow the Lord to show us the way, to really turn ourselves back to God, to be able to show others the way. Because this is what it's really all about here. It's not about looking to politics, but it's about looking to the Most High God to enable the people that are coming out and seeking God with all their heart to show the way back to the Father and the restoration of a land.
Well, and David, the spirit that you mentioned that's, kind of been on the parties, this whole fighting dog-eat-dog stuff, it's kind of still alive and well right now. You had 7 protests tonight, or 7 different cities that had major protests after the election, after the people have spoken and voted. And I don't think there's been any violence or anything at this point, and I pray that there isn't. I hope that it all ends peacefully and it just dies down so our country can get on with its business. But we definitely see that's going on, and the Christian approach that we're going to need to take is to pray for people on both sides of the aisle, because this isn't about politics. It's about our country, and it's also about our Lord. You know, like, how are we going to serve God in these days that we have here on this earth? You know, and so I think praying for people on both sides of the aisle, praying for our leaders, and praying that our country will return to God is going to be key, like you said, to kind of a last days revival, which that's actually one of the books we've kind of been talking about at Skywatch right now, Final Fire, written by Donna Howe, Larry Spargimino, and Tom Horn, about kind of the final fire, one of the last days revival that they believe will come to this world and to this nation.
One thing I do think that about this revival, I really hope that people take advantage of whatever more time we've been given, because that's one of the main issues that I see, not only with our people, but with the children of Israel. In the Bible times, when things are good, people tend to forget about our Creator. They tend to forget about Him, and they tend to move on their own path. And when things get better, they take it as a liberty to act out and act foolishly and behave in a way that is not it's not in line. Because, you know, a lot of people are, you know, of course, people now wouldn't seen that we might have got Hillary, and people were really humbling themselves and praying and really down. But now that we have Trump, okay, and let's say Trump does what he says he's going to do, now that we have him, people are going to look at it like, oh, we got him now, cocky, you know, braggadocious, all just completely in their own way again. And that's what I always think about. That's why I think it's important that we keep reminding people, of course. But I see it already. I see it in Facebook posts of some of the people that were, you know, really praying for the country, this and that. Now they're just acting like they're the cock of the walk, for lack of better terms, I guess you could say it. I think David logged out. He's going to try to log back in. Hopefully you get his sound correctly here. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, John, and I've noticed the same thing too. And I mean, even the videos that show Hillary supporters crying and stuff, and then we see our Christian brothers and sisters that go onto those threads and mock these people. These are people that, by and large, don't have God or don't know God. They're scared, and we're going to laugh at them. I mean, we as Christians should be comforting them with the gospel. That's what we need to do, and especially now that we've been given this window of hopefully at least 4 years, where we're going to actually have a chance to get out there and spread the gospel. We might actually be able to ignite a revival. So if we want to keep this going, we need to be, you know, about the Lord's work and do those things. But I think a lot of times we think of these the people on the other side, you know, liberals or Democrats, or we tend to think of them as the enemy, and they're not. Scripturally, they're not the enemy. Ephesians 6 tells us who our enemy is, and it's not flesh and blood. If anything, we should be thinking of them as prisoners of war. They've been duped. They've been brainwashed. In many of these cases, ever since they were kids, ever since they were born, they've been indoctrinated with a lot of these things, and they don't know. They just don't know. So I think that we've been given a window where we can actually exercise our faith to help these people in need, and to do so graciously, lovingly, and with respect, not through mockery and pride. That's never been the way to go, and it's all that's going to do is polarize not only the country but the church as well, if we decide to take that stance. And my fear or my worry is if we do take that stance of pride and mockery, God's going to close that window and say, well, you had your chance, so you know, the window's closed now. So let's take this opportunity we have, stay awake, and get out there, preach the gospel, and try to bring as many into the fold as we can.
Well, I like what you said, Josh, about just how a lot of people may not even know what they're supporting. I think you kind of sometimes get that on both sides of the aisle of people just not really educated what politics is about, and
Yeah.
they become a pawn of a party. And when that happens, man, they get them. It's like picking a football team. If you really think about it, if you've chosen a side on a football team and you're crying in tears or shattered afterwards, what is it that that person is really like with football? There's not really it's a game, right? This is like the shaping of our nation, but the same principle can apply when it doesn't matter that you don't really know in depth everything that's going on. You picked a side, and if that side loses, it's just emotional. So
Yeah. And the other side of this too is to think about what this means for us as individuals, because I think that a lot of people, and I'll be honest, I voted for Trump. I was a Trump supporter, and I've never cared about an election before. I actually registered to vote for the first time just to vote in this election. I've never cared before, but this was different for me. But one of my worries is that people will look to Trump to fix all these problems, and it's never going to work from the top down. You have one person at the top, one person can't make all that change down. What needs to happen is we need to take it upon ourselves as individuals. The change needs to happen at home. The change needs to happen within ourselves. We should take this opportunity to clean out anything that we need to in us to bring this country back again. And if we do that, if we can really come together and do that and not worry about what other people are doing, oh, so-and-so isn't taking this opportunity, so I don't have to, I can go back to sleep. If we just take it upon ourselves, we'll have a much better chance at actually turning this country around, and the church. And at the very least, when we stand before God and when we're accountable to Him, we can at least say that we did the right thing as individuals. So during these 4 years, that's at least what I'm going to be doing, and what those in my house are going to be doing.
Well said. And, and I think too, the one thing that people need to really understand, especially on Facebook, on just in person, if you don't agree with somebody, you don't automatically have to lash out at them, and you don't have to say things that are going to cause your relationship to be hurt, because let's face it, you love your family and your friends, hopefully a lot more than you love Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. And I know, a lot of us say things on Facebook, and I understand you stand up for the truth. You say things that are certain ways, but I've seen, and I wouldn't say anybody that's listening to our show probably said any of these things, but I've seen people post stuff that is just laughing, like we said, laughing at people that are lost, and saying, now you're going to have to get off your welfare and all, just stuff like that it's just really just real rude. I mean, it's not, yeah. I'm laughing, but it's just so rude that you would never say that to somebody in person. And if you wouldn't say it to somebody in person, you shouldn't say it online for sure, because it creates like, I know this, I didn't even look at my feed almost all day until the end of the day. I looked at it, and I was like, wow, man, if I've been watching this all day, which a lot of people do, they watch the news feed, it's going to cause depression. It's going to cause them to be angered, high anxiety levels, because that's why I don't really ever look at it. And sometimes I don't even look at the comments that on my own post.
How could you have seen it, John? You were basically online for 5 hours doing his show.
5.5 hours. Yeah, that was crazy for me. I've done 3 hours before. That was a long time. 5.5 hours. By the end of the night, I was sweating because my wife turned on the heat, and it gets really hot upstairs here, and so
that's like punching a clock there, man. 5 hours. That's like you need to add a lunch break, and I mean that's a long time to be on, man.
I took a couple breaks. I played the video of William Schnoebelen, and that was awesome. That was really good. That prayer that he did and what he talked about on there. David, it looks like we got you back. Can we hear you now? No, man. We can't hear you.
Not yet. Somebody needs to lay hands on his equipment here pretty soon. We're having some.
Check your settings. I know Donna probably already did, but at the very top of Google, there's a little cog and it says settings. Click on that and make sure you have your right mic selected. It's because obviously you have your headset selected. You can hear us. Make sure that same headset selected for your mic so that you can hear us, or so you can speak, because obviously it could be a hardware issue as well. When you were talking before, it was really bad feedback. I mean, I could barely hear you, and very loud. I could hear every little niche that was going on in the room every time somebody tapped on anything. It was.
Hey, if it comes down to it, David, if you want, you can call my cell phone and I'll pipe you in through my condenser, and John can just select your screen when you're talking. So that's another workaround we could do.
Right. Yeah, it would be much better than the sound we had before. We could hear you,
Sure.
but there was so much background noise.
I'll call you now, David, while we're talking, and then whenever you need to talk, John, just select him for the video feed, and then I'll just pump his audio through mine, so that's fine.
Right. And tomorrow, if you want, I'll swing through and try to help you guys out. So just let me know. And I got to come into town anyway tomorrow, so let me know on that. Yeah, I can. Okay, so I watched Trey Smith's video on Donald Trump where he's talking about him being the next Cyrus. It was interesting, for sure. Do I believe that he'll be the next Cyrus? And I'm not. I guess I didn't get the whole point behind it because I watched it kind of slowly. What do you guys think about that? Did you guys watch it, and how did you feel about that video? Because I watched part of it, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And I love Trey Smith. I mean, I love almost all his videos he's done. This one was a little bit different than I had assumed. I'm not sure how he got that from it. What do you guys interviewed him? I think Josh, you actually interviewed the guy, and I think Skywatch did too. What did you guys think about what he said? You probably have more insight on the video than I do.
Well, it was definitely interesting. When I interviewed him, it was for Into the Multiverse, which is the show that I do on Skywatch TV, for your audience who might not be familiar. And that one basically is around quantum physics in the Bible, or even like cosmology, or in the Bible, like sciencey stuff. So we didn't really talk politics. Trey and I talked about his 2 DVDs, The Theory of Everything and Entities. But he did do an interview with Derek Gilbert, host of Skywatch TV, for a daily update on the Trump video. And I think he made a lot of good points. I think the actual interview kind of helped round out some of the areas from the documentary that he made that people might have been a little bit more confused on. But basically, at least in the interview, Trey didn't predict anything. I mean, he was basically saying there's 2 ways this could go, and I think God would like to give us a break, but this also might be a judgment deal. So here's how it could be on both sides. And then he made comparisons to Trump and Cyrus and went over some of the Stranger Things like that, which was pretty interesting. So all around, I thought it was interesting. It didn't really sway my opinion one way or another after watching it. But I wasn't bored through it. I felt like I learned something. So that's why we brought him out and did that interview. But yeah, well, how about you, Jake? What was your take on it?
Yeah, I didn't really see every facet of the interview. I mean, I saw kind of the main premise of it, which it pretty much lines up with the video that we just heard the snippet of, which is that a lot of people believe that he's been chosen as a modern day Cyrus. And whether or not you believe Trump is an establishment guy, an Illuminati puppet, whatever, God can use those types of people too. So we're not saying that Trump is somehow on the Christian team, that he is somehow like one of us. However, I will mention basically in Scripture, there were some men that were casting out demons that were not with Jesus's group, and the disciples came to him and they said, "Hey, we got to stop this guy because he's casting out demons in your name, and yet he's not one of us. So what do we do?" And Jesus' response was, if he's not against us, then he's for us. Leave him be. And that's how I kind of see Trump, is he is not against the Christian people. And that's one of the first that I've seen in office in what's it been, 8 years now, because who we've had in office, they've been against the Christian people. They're saying we're no longer a Christian nation. They're basically sending the IRS after Christian organizations. I've got a brother and sister-in-law that have been audited numerous times because they're a Christian they're a Christian a nonprofit charity type business, right? And this is happening all over the place. And it came out that the IRS was dictated by Obama to do this, that they're basically targeting Christians Well, this is an example of someone who is against the Christian community. In an interview, he basically mentioned in an interview my Muslim faith on accident, and then he corrected himself and said Christian faith. Well, let me just say this, folks. If you're doing an interview and you're talking with someone about something as personal as your religious beliefs, you're not going to fluff that. I'm not going to be talking to you, Josh, and be like, oh, my Mormon belief. Oh, I mean, Christian belief. It just doesn't happen. And so I believe you have someone there who secretly has these Islamic ties and all this stuff, and he's free to practice his religion. That's what our country's all about. But when you begin attacking what I'm doing because it doesn't line up with your beliefs, now you have someone in presidential office that is imposing what they believe on the people through numerous channels. And we kind of talked about that today. In fact, tomorrow on Skywatch web exclusives on our dailies, we actually have a program that's going to be going out where we're talking about a lot of this stuff. So I want you guys to check it out. If you go to skywatchtv.com, you can see it there. You can also go to just Skywatch TV on YouTube, and it should be up like midday tomorrow or tomorrow afternoon. It was really good, though. Me, Derek, Josh, and Joe Horn kind of did a roundtable discussion this morning with kind of our feelings after the election. So, yeah.
Very cool. Be looking forward to seeing that. Make sure you guys send me a link to that if I don't see it.
Sure.
But definitely, I'm all about this. And I normally I could care less about the elections. I've never, like Josh, I never really cared about them. And my wife voted. She did vote. I didn't vote. I wasn't going to tell her to or not to vote. I didn't. That's up to her. I didn't vote just because I thought the elections were rigged, and I still think they are. I think, and there was a lot of voter fraud on Hillary's part from what I saw. I saw undercover videos. I just think she underestimated them. Cheaters don't always win, but I think she definitely underestimated how many people would actually turn up and vote for Trump. And oddly enough, she won the popular vote, which I thought is extremely strange because I can't name, I don't know maybe but one or two people out of everybody I know that would admit to voting for her. I mean, do you guys really think she got the popular vote? I mean, how many people actually voted for that lady?
I don't believe it, John. Sorry, Josh. If I stepped all over you, I'm sorry.
No, go for it. Go for it.
I just want to make sure I'm not dominating the conversation here. My take was this, John. One of the reasons why I believe Hillary did not fight anything on her concession speech is this. I believe there was so much counting that was rigged and voter fraud. I believe her numbers were drastically inflated, right? Well, she still, even though there was a thin margin, there was still a lot of room in a lot of the states where she lost. I believe if she had pushed it and if they had started the investigation, the voter fraud would be uncovered. And now she wouldn't even be only dealing with the email scandal, but she would be dealing with major corruption and fraud in regards to like a voter fraud scandal scenario, which she does not want. She wants anything but that. Now that he's president, she has to play nice. She's in dangerous water.
That makes sense. I mean, because why investigate she wouldn't want to recount knowing that there's a good chance they might find out something was messed up with her. But what about the Electoral College, man? That's something that I just don't. I'm like, this to me is just basically saying you vote for whoever you want, and we'll decide who you want to vote for, and we'll vote for you through the Electoral College. That's what I see the Electoral College as. I know that there's different thoughts on the whole idea, but it's odd that you can get the majority vote and still not win. That is so strange. And the fact that the Electoral College kind of has they choose to represent you the best way they know how. And so I guess it's based on how many votes they get in. They're like, okay, we'll go ahead and cast this one for that. What do you guys know about the Electoral College? Because I was reading up on it in the different writings and all the different laws that they had about the Electoral College, and to me it seems like they basically just put whoever they want in.
Yeah, I used to think that too, and I used to before this election, and I think this is something that I was able to gain from this election and just learning how everything works. But before this election, I used to think, why don't they just go by the popular vote? That just seems like the obvious thing. Why do we need all this Electoral College stuff? But now that I've researched it more, I understand the reason. And actually, this election is a really good example of what can happen without the Electoral College. The reason that Hillary got the popular vote is because there's all these big, huge cities that are liberal. I mean, you got huge cities in New York and California, but she didn't focus as much on the heartland of America, on true working Americans in the way that Donald Trump did. So the way that the Electoral College is set up, if basically every state, has a set number of representatives that are Democrat or Republican, but if it was just by the popular vote, the only motivation a nominee would have to go and canvass anywhere in America, they would just hit the big cities, and then that would mean the working class would not be represented by anybody. So that was actually put in place by our founding fathers for that reason. They looked back in history and found out that every time a country or a nation has went by the popular vote, that nation would go in decline until it just crumbled and died because of that, because the actual driving engine of the country, the working class, never got represented. So that's why we have the Electoral College. So it's actually, at least in my opinion, it's actually a good way to go about it, because at least this way, the nominees are, if they want a chance at winning, they're in a sense forced to think about the working class, the heartland of America. They can't only focus on these big populated cities, which right now a lot of them are liberal, which is again why Hillary won the popular vote. But that's why Donald Trump, who actually did take the time and effort to hear the actual working people of America, and at least is saying that he wants to fix the problems that they have. That's how he was able to win over the Electoral College and win the presidency.
Right. And yeah, we last night, this is the first time I've ever even done this before, but we had we had a real-time report of what was going on with all that stuff, and by the time it was all said and done, I was like, okay, well, if he wins Pennsylvania, it's over with. If he gets, we kind of just knew what was going on. But that was the first time I ever knew, because before that I was so confused by it all. But when he won Pennsylvania, we knew. We just went ahead and called it a Trump victory, because we knew. It was interesting though, because he's the first Republican that's won Pennsylvania since Reagan. After that, he's
Wisconsin as well, and there's a few others. Yeah.
I figured Hillary would win that. There's a lot of cemeteries in Pennsylvania. I figured she'd get.
Well, and it's interesting because Trump is kind of in the actor arena, and so is Reagan. Trump is also kind of representative of a prosperity type era. I mean, he's obviously a very prosperous man. So to me, it's almost kind of like a repeat of history, where you have now an actor in the role of politician who wasn't really a politician to begin with, who could in fact turn the country around from an economic standpoint. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, very interesting. So David's not going to be joining us. I just saw Donna. They're having computer problems, so I'm going to go by and help them.
We need to see what we can do to figure out a new setup for them, man, so they don't have to mess with that. There's got to be something we can figure out, low cost or something, because it's been a struggle for a while, and I'm praying and hoping that, they can have something stable that's going to work every time for them, because, man, David has some really good stuff to say. It's just unfortunate.
No doubt. And I'm definitely going to try to work that out for him. Unfortunately, technology is not as easy as 1, 2, 3. I know I have lots of troubles getting stuff going sometimes. I don't know how many times I've had Google Hangout problems where I can't even get my microphone working, and it's been a software, they're on their end issue. So me and you got to mess with some other software today that seemed pretty neat. That might be the next best option as well.
Yeah, we'll have to experiment around with that here in the future. But so anyways, man, back to the topic at hand that we were discussing tonight. That is one of the things that I kind of talked about earlier today, is that you almost have like a repeat of history. And I believe God elects these people to office when all is said and done. His hand is in it. He's not going to let the wrong guy be in office. He's going to elect who he sees fit to run the nations and rule the nations. That's what the Bible says. And so whether we like it or not, or we get something that we don't like, it's God's hand is in it. He orchestrates it. I'll give you a prime example. This is interesting. A lot of people don't know this, but Richard Nixon, when he was in office, a lot of people say Richard Nixon was like the most corrupt president, blah, 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 yada, 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 right? Well, if you look at what's going on today compared to what Nixon did, what he did is child's play. And he got, basically he ended up resigning, but was going through the impeachment process and all that, basically getting kicked out of office for recording. He was recording telephone conversations and then had some people break into the one location basically to get these documents to cover up something. I mean, it was a mild cover up, right, compared to what you have today. So they call him like the corrupt president. Well, what a lot of people don't know is that he single-handedly saved Israel during, I believe it was either the Yom Kippur War or the 6-Day War, that he sent them like a vast shipment of supplies, like in a short period of time. And like when he was a child, his grandmother told him as a child, and this is documented, that basically told him that God had showed her that he would be a man of great power one day and he would have a chance to help these people. And when the time came, he should do it. And so here you have someone that just basically saved just an entire nation of people. And a lot of people think he was the most corrupt person, but he basically FedExed, like overnighted, the largest military aid in history. I mean, it was tanks, it was weapons, it was everything. They were totally being overrun by Syria and Egypt.
That's a really good point. And, and that just goes to show that, like, things like that can happen. God can use anyone that he wants. And that doesn't mean that we're claiming Nixon for our side and saying he's one of us or anything. And just like we're not doing that with Trump, we're just recognizing that God can use anybody that he sees fit. And I really like what you said, Jake, too, about how God appoints people, because on the screen grab of this show, it's the title is something along the lines of "Did God choose Donald Trump?" or something to that effect. Right. And when I first posted this, I got some Facebook comments that I had to delete because they were ridiculous. And it not just a conflict of opinion, but just insulting, just for me posting something that would dare say that. I was just for example, I was told by somebody that I'm blind and half brain dead if I believe that. Well, I do believe that. I do absolutely believe that God did choose Donald Trump because that's what Scripture says. Scripture
I'm sorry for posting that to your Facebook, too, Josh.
No. I share. Yeah.
I'm kidding. It's a joke. Okay, go ahead.
But I absolutely do believe that God did choose Donald Trump because that's what Scripture says, that he's the one that appoints rulers. Now, that doesn't always mean those rulers are going to agree with us. I believe the same thing about Obama, and I don't stand for anything that Obama does. I think he's just awful, but God made that decision. And look at it in hindsight. If we didn't have Obama, let's say we had Mitt Romney for 4 years. Do you think that imagine this though. Do you think the American people would be so fed up with the system like they are now that they would be willing to vote in somebody like Donald Trump? Never would have happened.
Nope.
So at that time, Obama needed to be president for another 4 years just to get America to the place where, okay, now we can make good decisions. God will teach us how to make good decisions. He doesn't always tell us exactly what his plans are ahead of time. So we need to trust in him. And it's the same with this situation. So if that makes me blind and half brain dead, that's totally fine. I'd rather people think that of me, and I follow what Scripture says as best as I can. But in hindsight, we can look at those things and realize, because I remember when Obama was elected for a second term, even though I wasn't involved, but I was disappointed because I just didn't want to deal, for another 4 years with just hearing about all this stuff. But it was a good thing. Now we can see it was a good thing that happened. Because again, if Mitt Romney got in, I don't think Trump would have won this time. I think Hillary probably would have got it. But again, there's no way to know that for sure. It's just speculation. So hindsight's 2020. But again, it does also go to show that nobody knows everything. Whether Trump is a Christian or not, it really doesn't matter. He is there for a reason. He wouldn't be there if God didn't want him there. He wouldn't be the next president. He wouldn't be the president-elect. So we need to trust that God knows what he's doing, and whatever happens after that, for all I know, Trump could be assassinated tomorrow. You know, we don't know what's going to happen, but God has a plan, and we need to put our focus on God instead of against each other. So I probably got to close with that because it's about 9 o'clock and I gotta head out. But I want to thank you guys so much for having me on again. This has been an awesome discussion as always.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Josh. Me and Jake will continue the subject, but I definitely agree with you. God does put people in the Bible says he puts kings in their position. He puts them in there. He twists their heart. He does whatever he has to do. And you're right. It's not always a good outcome every time. And we're that's just the way it goes. And hopefully Trump, like you said, it'll be a positive experience for us all. And I hope that it buys us another few years because I'm cautious but hopeful. At the same time, I am really just expecting I'm expecting to see a twist of events at some point, but that doesn't mean it'll happen. That's how I am. You know, anything good happens, I'm waiting for the twist to happen. But anyways, yeah, thank you.
Real quick before Josh goes, I just want to say, guys, please check out the Sharpening Report and check out our YouTube. You can go to thesharpeningreport.com.
It's just Sharpening Report. There's no the.
My goodness, you would think I would know the website by now, right? Okay, so Sharpening the Report. Yeah. There's this thing that Josh and I do at this site, right? No. So go look up though Josh Peck on YouTube. Now there are other Josh Pecks out there that is not the Josh Peck. You're looking for the one that is an actual channel. It's going to have 400 some videos and around 15,000 subscribers. We would like for you guys to make that like 30,000 subscribers. So please check us out because we're doing awesome stuff every week. Josh, again, thank you for joining us, sir, and thank you for the awesome opportunity to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Honor's all mine. Thank you guys again. Love you guys, and I look forward to talking to you next time.
Definitely.
All right, take care.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Have a good night.
You too.
Awesome. So I really liked his take, John, at the end there.
Now that Josh is here, we can talk about it.
Yeah. So here's what we really think. No. But I really liked his take at the end, man, where it's like you need a lot more vinegar before you're ready for the honey, you know? Kind of like you need 8 years of some sour vinegar before you're ready to wake up. And, you know, it really is true, man. This nation, our country, I think there's a lot of Christians that are waking up to what's going on now. You know, I think more people voted this time around than ever have before because they care about the direction of our nation. And here's the thing, guys. When you're talking about voting for an individual and all this, one of the main things I look at is pro-life, pro-choice, right? Because as John and I have covered multiple times now on different shows like Babylon Now, abortion is basically the legal form of child sacrifice. The god Molech was associated with this in ancient Babylon. It still goes on today, but it's been legalized, right? So our system offers up these children basically to Lucifer. I mean, it's demonic. You can't say, if you're going to argue with me and say abortion is not demonic, you just need to read your Bible because it happened in ancient times. Right, John?
That's exactly right. We did a show about it on Babylon.
Babylon Now, yeah.
Yeah. And
abortion and satanic rituals, right? Yeah.
I think that's what it was called. And it tied it back way back to what it all is about. And it's so... And you're right. People are so fed up with the way our country's going. They just wanted some relief. And even if Trump's not that relief, you can tell people wanted it. And that's why I don't bash people for voting or not voting. I do think that it's, you know, somehow I think God can change the system, the voting system, and make things happen. But I think the elites think Donald Trump's going to fall in line with him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have got into office. Hopefully, he stands his ground. Doesn't bow to threats because he will get threatened. We get threatened, and we just do little shows like this. Imagine being president. Hopefully, he doesn't bow to money. He's got enough money, so hopefully, he doesn't make more. You know, try to make more money off of it. I think that they're a little worried because, you know, how can you buy somebody that already has lots of money? How can you buy a man that, I mean, most men are easily bought with either women, money, or some form of that in one way or another. Donald Trump doesn't seem like the kind of man you can buy off. But then again, I mean, when you love money, every little bit counts, I guess, right? So hopefully he won't bend over. Hopefully he won't be assassinated. We need to pray that God, the Bible does say to pray for our leaders. And one of the hardest things I ever did was praying for Obama. And I mean, really, truthfully, it was very definitely a tough thing. Somebody asked in the chat room, it was just a second ago. I'm going to see if I can find it again. So God wanted Obama there. Why? For our judgment. That was from Annie. And hello, Annie. Nice to see you in here. I think that probably so. I think that there's not only for judgment, but there's two things being worked here. There's God's will, and then there's Satan's will. They're kind of at war against each other. Obviously, God's will allows this to happen. God allows these powers that be to be in control at certain times. But when you look at history and you look at the Bible history, every now and then he throws a wrench in Satan's system. Every now and then he does. And I'm studying the Maccabees. I saw that, studying the history before that, because I was trying to tie in Daniel 11 and Daniel chapter 8 into some of the stuff. I saw points to where Satan had a clear hold on the world. Then all of a sudden God throws a wrench in the whole thing and sets up his king. And then he allows everybody to go back into captivity again. It keeps happening. He just kind of throws in his wrench and does that. Then the children of Israel get prideful, cocky, do everything they shouldn't be doing.
Well,
and then boom, back in captivity again. And that's what I see possibly Trump as being, as a wrench being thrown in Satan's game, a little salt thrown in his game. And so that's what I'm hoping for anyway.
Well, here's the thing, and someone said this in chat, Hillary and Trump are on the same team. I believe that our two-party system is in fact connected. I believe that the globalists do control a lot of this stuff behind the scenes. My prayer and hope is that that somehow someone outside the system happened to get in, and this is God's way of controlling things without these elitists and stuff being involved in it. But one aspect of Trump that is very interesting is his stance with Russia. He's so much his stance with Russia's been so much more friendly than, say, like what we've had with Obama in the past, right? One of the reasons for that, John, I know you've covered that as well, is that Russia is an anti-New World Order country. They don't want to be part of the NWO. In fact, they want the USSR again. They want that to rise again. They want their own elite system, and they hate the New World Order. The USA in the past has been so controlled by the New World Order, they see Trump as an anti-establishment guy, and so he's appealing to them. And I kind of believe all this stuff going on in Syria, that Putin was just waiting just to see kind of what would happen with this election to decide what he's going to do next, because I think Trump may be a guy that he can work with better than he was able to work with Obama, or better than he would be able to work with Hillary. What's your take on that, John? I'm not getting your audio, John. You're muted. Sorry.
You'd think I have never done this before. Putin he's expressed that he's happy with Trump winning. He thinks that they can actually maybe able to work out the problems that they've had with the U.S. The positive sign. And most of you guys know that I've done some videos about Russia, and I think, oddly enough, YouTube tried to censor it the first time. It's still up there. They took away monetization on it or whatever, but they were ready to go to war with us if Hillary won. Plain and simple. Ready to go to war. And that could have been rhetoric. That could have been propaganda. It could have been whatever you want to say, but they despise. I know people that live over there, people that are insiders over there. They despise the way our country is. They despise.
Is that Alexander that you interviewed?
Dugin. Yeah, Dugin.
Alexander Dugin.
Yeah, they despise the way our country is. They despise the homosexuality. First off, that's down there. If there's a homosexual bar, they'll throw a grenade up in there. There's none of that allowed in there. They're very traditional. They despise our people, because not only there's a lot of reasons. This is the main reason that I can understand here. The other ones I understand to a certain extent, but this is the one that I truly grasp at this point. They are in control of Syria at this point. their people. They put their people in charge of it. Okay. America has rebels they're funding in Syria. So they're breaking the stability of Syria over there while Russia's trying to control the stability, basically because they share the same borders. They're right there with each other. They're obviously like pretty much the same country. And historically, they always, the kings of the north, all the north area, that was their land. Syria, all the Persian Empire, all that stuff around there was theirs. And so they try to control that place because they want stability there. They want government there. They don't want it to be completely ramshacked or hustled. Our government is funding rebels over there to take down the people that they're trying to build up in that area, which they're trying to have peace over there, trying to work it out. Our government's funding ISIS, funding all these groups to go in there and take their people out. Obviously, Russia's very angry about it, especially this last thing that just happened with Russia. So I could definitely see Putin, all those people, very ecstatic that Trump wins, because at least there's an opportunity for them to work with somebody that's not a crazed lunatic like Hillary Clinton. Because Hillary, you heard her trying to blame everything on the Russians. She was blaming the hackers on the Russians.
Yeah,
blaming everything to do with the world on Russia. And I think it's prophetically they want to destroy Syria because there's prophecy about Syria being in ruins. When to bring in the Antichrist, there's certain things that have to happen. That's one of them. I think they're trying to bring down that entire country for that reason. Personally, I think they're trying to push this Antichrist agenda further, because if I can tell you this, if Russia's in ruins, that brings up a whole new prophecy. And we'll talk about that in a minute if you want.
Yeah. So I was just going to ask you, John, so when you did the interview with Alexander Dugin, what did he say the USA's approach is to being there in Syria? What is the end game? Is it all about oil in the region, or is it about destabilizing the area to have a closer shot at Russia? Is it a security thing?
He didn't tell me what it was. What I think, and this is my opinion, obviously, this is putting myself in their shoes. I think our country, just the people like Hillary and the people, these people that are in charge of our country, they just want to destroy us. They want to destroy America. They want to destroy this because they want this one world government to come together. And so if they can piss off Russia or piss off China, or they can spend all the money that they can spend to bankrupt us and do all these different things, then voila, they've done their job. And I think that's the main thing. They're just trying to be destructive and be a horrible leader. They're trying the best they can be to be the worst leader that they can possibly be. I think that's what they're trying to do. When I look at it, I don't see any logical explanation for spending trillions of dollars and putting us in debt, for policing the world without having any kind of money, for not controlling our borders. I mean, what other explanation is there besides they're just horrible? They suck at what they do, or they just don't care. And I think it's probably a little bit of both. They suck at what they do and they don't care. They're so entitled that they think they can do anything that they want. But in the Bible, in Isaiah 17:1, it says a prophecy against Damascus. It's talking about Damascus in a ruinous heap. And that's where we're talking about here. Okay. Damascus is in Syria. It's pretty much in ruins right now as we speak. Russia's trying to stop that from being in ruins. America's trying to put it in ruins. So they're trying. I think they're literally trying to bring on prophecy. I think they know something. I think they know what steps have to be taken in order for them to institute the one world government, institute the Antichrist. I think that's exactly what they're trying to do. And I think Trump is anti-globalist, at least as far as he says. What he says is anti-globalist. If he is or not remains to be seen, but he talks like an anti-globalist.
Yeah, if he continues to do what everyone else has done, which is basically go against the will of the American people and try and pass laws and bills that go against the majority, then we'll know that he, in fact, is just another puppet. But, man, from what I've seen from him so far, it seems like he really is genuine. And, again, actions speak louder than words. Trump is obviously good at words. In this prophecy that you played earlier, one of the things that this gentleman said that the Lord had shown him was that all the great leaders that are used for pushing back darkness and that have saved America and many of the other countries around the world when the spirit of the Antichrist rose up, what were people that had a big mouth. They were basically like energetic, charismatic people that didn't really care what people thought, like General Patton. Very much that way. Just said what he thought. He didn't care what you thought about it. He was going to tell it like it is. In fact, Patton eventually got in trouble one of the last things that kind of got him out of his commission was he slapped a soldier that had faked an injury or had wounded himself basically to get out of combat. So his take was, this guy's a coward, I'm going to deal with it. So he slapped him, you know. But these characters that are like this they don't care what people think. They're going to say exactly what they think. And when you play politics, you're pandering to whoever you think your audience is at the moment. It's an acting thing. You're playing politics. From what I've seen for Trump, he doesn't really play politics. He just basically says what he thinks, you know. And I know there is political strategy and all that in there, but for the most part, man, he's going to stick to his guns, I think, on what the key issues that he feels responsible for, you know. And I think one of the things is he really does want the best for our nation. I believe he really does. That's my take. But.
Right, and you're exactly right, and you're right, Valerie. Not all of it is in ruins yet, thank goodness. But that's exactly what America has been trying to do, is to put it in ruins, definitely. And I hope you're right, Jake. I hope he really does say that if the prophecy is correct, he's saying things that he means, and he's saying things that he's saying things that nobody else has said as a politician. He's saying things that are deemed politically incorrect by most people in the political scene, but the fact of the matter is it's real. The stuff that he's saying is what real people actually care about. Oh, and there's people that don't. I mean, I know there are people that are really upset about it, but people that are like me, as I can't even get insurance for less than $1,000 a month unless my wife at her work has a plan for insurance. I can't do. I mean, $1,000 a month for insurance is what I have to pay as a small business owner for insurance. I can't, my taxes are overwhelming. My insurance is ridiculous. Can't even hardly make it, which, that's, and the odd thing about it is, to me, that's only a small percentage of what I care about. And we have abortions. Okay. I understand abortion is a personal problem with people. It's a personal sin that people are doing. But the thing is, I don't want to fund it. I don't want to pay my taxes, my hard-earned dollars, when I work 60, 70 hours a week. I don't want to pay that money towards an abortion. I don't want to do it. And I know Trump's not necessarily, he's not pro-abortion, he's anti-abortion, but if they can give it, Indiana voted a long time ago to get rid of abortion dollars, state tax dollars going to abortion clinics like Planned Parenthood. And guess what? Obama shot it down. They couldn't do it. He made it to where they could not do that. So just giving the power back to the states for people not to pay for abortions is huge to me. I'd pay taxes. I don't like paying lots of taxes. I don't like having to, have to pay insurance companies $1,000 a month. I don't like any of that, but I definitely
Why not, John? Why not?
What's
your problem?
I don't like to eat peanut butter and jelly every night. You know what I mean?
You don't like freedom? You don't like America? I'm just kidding.
No, but you know what I mean. And so,
yeah. And just to interject, everybody's saying they're going to leave and go to Canada, John, while you're on this topic. Man, the taxes there are outrageous, especially when you're an American transitioning over to Canada. All these celebrities that say they're going to leave America is a self-correcting problem, but they're going to have a rude awakening when they get over there. It's ridiculous. You'll get taxed out the wazoo.
Yeah. Yeah, let them go. I mean, the people that want to go to Canada, I mean, by all means, if this isn't a place you want to live, I've thought about moving out of the country myself anyway. If I could find a place that's any better, I might have done it already. But I totally get it. No matter what happens, in the end, we're going to see how this plays out. I'm just hoping, like I said, for a few more years to where my children get old enough to be able to take care of themselves if something were to happen to me. But then again, might be better off if we just saw, everything's over with quick. I don't know, maybe peel the Band-Aid off real quick. I have no idea, but I'm just thankful right now. Not necessarily because Trump won, just because Hillary didn't win is the main thing I'm thankful for. That woman right there, I know that once she gets in, you can tell, if she gets in, if she ever does get in, you can tell there's something witchy. She's a witch. I mean, I don't know if you saw the William Schnabel video I did that talked about the spirit cooking, talked about the actual ritual.
Podesta's connection. Yeah. I did see that, and it's greatly disturbing. One of the guys that we've talked to a lot is Lieutenant Colonel Bob McGinnis, who you should actually have on, John. Amazing. He just wrote a book called Future War. He's actually a consultant for the Pentagon. He's still on the Pentagon payroll. He's highly influential in Washington and all over. And basically, you know, one of the things he had said over the last several years is that he believes that there's heavy occult influence in parts of Washington. He didn't say everywhere, but he said it does happen. And he got mocked by mainstream Christians for that. And here we have this stuff coming out. It has to be leaked by hackers for us to find out. That's how good they are at covering their tracks and basically keeping this stuff a secret, is it literally has to be leaked by hackers for us to find out what's going on. But Podesta was basically, he's basically into basically the Jeffrey Dahmer stuff. He has multiple paintings and sculptures honoring this tradition of cannibalism. I mean, it's sick stuff, man. It's totally sick and sadistic. The guy is whacked out. And this is a huge part of Hillary's campaign is, you know, he's one of the, a campaign manager or something along those lines, Podesta is. But yeah, it's crazy, man.
I thought something was kind of interesting too. I'm looking at Podesta 3 days ago. I don't know exactly what these symbols are, but he's got a picture.
You muted yourself, John.
If you didn't know, the space button will mute you. He's holding him. He's got a picture of himself holding his hands up like this.
Yeah,
and he's got a 14 and a fish. In Freemasonry, this is the sign of distress, which makes you wonder if that's the kind of sign he's wanting to give out, because this was all over the news. This picture that he put out, but let me show you. Yeah, people that don't know what spirit cooking is, it's a form of what he calls art, but he was also Aleister Crowley fanatic. I mean, he's big in Aleister Crowley. It's disgusting, some of the stuff that actually goes on in this art, what they call art, and
right,
crazy. Yeah, go ahead.
The mainstream media was basically saying everybody needs to calm down. This is just art. Well, the lady's taking pig's blood. I forget her name. She's like from Romania or something like that. But she's basically taking pig's blood and entrails, like it's coagulated stuff in a big bucket. She's dipping a brush in it and writing on 3 walls of a room these weird sayings that go back to the kind of the Aleister Crowley stuff. And then the 4th wall, she's shooting an image, say, of like a woman with a snake on it, some type figure with the snake going around their head. And she stands in front of the image, and then something is happening with spirits coalescing. And it's basically she's opening up doorways for spirits in this supposed art. They call it art. But Podesta was invited to this thing. You know, also within these leaks that just came out, we found out about Colin Powell's involvement in Bohemian Grove, which Bohemian Grove goes way back. You know, people have known about that one for a long time. But I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of this occult stuff going on in Washington. And I think I think if we really knew how many people were involved, we would be just basically just shocked to know what is going on, man. It's evident that something bad has been going on in Washington.
No doubt about it. There's definitely something bad going on there. Just their buildings alone are enough to make you get possessed by the devil when you go.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything goes back to these Freemasonry roots and all this. And we talked about earlier, man, that during the inauguration of the president, that the Freemasonry, I guess their main lodge there or whatever, they do a rising of Osiris ceremony at the point of the inauguration of the president. I don't know if they do that with the president or at the time that the president is being inaugurated, but it's like an insider thing that they all get involved in it. And they do this like huge raising of Osiris ceremony at the point of the inauguration. So, I mean, in Washington, the entire thing is laid out as a giant like Masonic map, which shouldn't surprise us, man, because this all has ties back to Egypt. You know, David Carrico's book that he wrote, The Egyptian Masonic Connection, it all goes back to ancient Egypt, and Egypt is a form of Babylon, along with, you know, people say modern day New York or modern day America. It all ties in, man. The same spirits that were at work then are at work now, so it shouldn't surprise us. People say you're reading into it. We're not. Guys, this stuff has been going on since the dawn of time. Child sacrifice, all these rituals, all this stuff, it's still going on. But the thing is, it's right in front of your face to where you can see it, but you don't recognize it. You don't see the Masonic symbols on lodges everywhere. You don't know that when someone goes into a Masonic lodge and goes under the ritual of initiation, that it's basically a satanic practice. They think that everything is just kosher with it. They just think it's just a simple like club rights thing that they do. But when they do that, they become enslaved to this demonic system. It's all designed to channel power.
Yeah, exactly. Very well said. There's somebody, I was talking to somebody today, just a couple comments actually. We had talked, and he said, "No, so do you think that this is still rigged now that Trump won?" I said, "Yeah, I think it's still rigged. I think everything's been controlled for a long time. But I think God throws monkey wrenches in the game? Yes, just basically what I just said earlier." And he's like, "Well, I just can't take the idea. I just don't think, the idea that there's these people that are shadow organization, And I was like, well, what about Satan? Said he's in control of the world, or basically was giving, tempting Jesus, Yeshua, to give him the control of the world. How did he do that if he wasn't in control? He's like, yeah, Satan's in control of the world, but there's the idea that there's a shadow organizations that are controlling everything. I said, look, man, I've been researching this for a very long time, and I can tell you that you're absolutely wrong. And so until you're willing to look at it for yourself, you can't really say that. And it kind of irritates me, because when people are like, oh, I just don't believe that. It's like, what do you know anyway? It's like me saying, well, I just don't believe that the quadratic equation does this or that. I don't know anything about a quadratic equation. How do I know what to believe about it? It's the same kind of thing.
Now I'm going to have to write that down, man. Go ahead, though. Now I'm going to have to know what the quadratic equation is. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I used to know what a quadratic equation was. I can't even think of what it is right now.
I'll ask Josh Pack. He'll know.
Yeah. So anyways, you know what I mean? If you don't know what you're talking about, why in the world would you say you don't think this is possible? It's obviously been going down. It's right in front of our faces. Is the thing about it that's so irritating is, Jake, it's right in front of our faces. Nothing is hidden from our faces about what they're doing. I mean, you can go look, like you said, you can look at the architecture and see. Is that most people are like, oh, it's just pretty architecture. Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful architecture.
It's obelisks everywhere in Washington. Yeah.
And then we've talked about this before, and actually, I don't know if me and you've talked about this or not, but in the Capitol building, there's a big. Let me just show a picture of it.
Sure.
Because this is something that people. It's interesting. Once I figured this out, kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things. A lot of things to do with. Let me find it real quick before I go into. I can't do two things at once.
While you're talking about that, one thing that I just want to add, and this is really interesting. I did a little bit of research on a small town I went to a few years ago in Weston, Missouri, where there was basically these hauntings and stuff going on. Right. Well, what I found out was that there was a Freemason lodge right next door to where these hauntings and stuff were appearing, meaning so there's a cult activity right there. There's a Freemason lodge next door. And so I'm connecting the pieces of the puzzle. Well, around the tops of the buildings, they had these 5-pointed stars all around it. And I found out that there's basically 72 stars that form some kind of like a demonic symbology in Freemasonry that I didn't know about. And I know there's a place. Is that what you're going to show, John? The 72 stars?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you see that?
There it is. Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
David Carrico was telling me about this.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, according to some apocryphal books and other books, 72 were the number of languages that we were split into after Babylon. And there were 72 angels that were in control of the 72 regions of the 72 different languages. Also, and Solomon supposedly had control over 72 demons with his seal. Inside of this, you see people like George Washington. You see, that I don't know who a lot of these people are. Columbia. You also see like weird creatures, like you see Poseidon, these Nephilim beings. You see these different creatures that are going on. This is not heaven. These are like demonic beings inside of this, and some of them are obviously people that we had before. But in theory, this is like a portal. This is a portal that they control. And oddly enough, the obelisk is right across the pond from that, right across the reflection pool. And a lot of people theorize, and me and David had talked about this, and that this ark that they were getting ready to put up right in between that was basically to open the portal for all these 72 different creatures that they may have control of in this point. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. But 72 different languages, 72 different stars there. Very interesting to think about that the world's controlled by these 72 different demonic entities or fallen angel entities with Satan at the top of the pinnacle. Interesting. And I think that's why I think a lot of people don't go along with my theory that I think America is not physical Babylon. It's not over in Babylon, but it is the world power at the moment. We do have, and of course you could argue that there's United Nations. There's a lot of different things that are powerful, but we do have the biggest base in Babylon. In fact, it's the biggest base we have anywhere is in Babylon, right there. And so now that Donald Trump has kind of taken the keys of Babylon, I wonder, because we know that the kings of Babylon before have been used by Yahweh. Nebuchadnezzar honored Yahweh at the end of his career. You know, he was turned into a beast there for a while, but then he was, after that, I mean, he was in honor to God. And then a lot of the people that Daniel dealt with, they saw who Yahweh was. They allowed Daniel to operate freely in this thing. They saw God, Yahweh himself save Daniel several times. They saw these different things. Just because somebody's in charge of Babylon doesn't mean they can't be used by him. In fact, Babylon was used more, I think once or twice. I can't remember, maybe not twice. Well, they were used at least once for Yahweh's will to take the people of children of Israel into captivity. But also King Cyrus, which was a Persian king, which would have been one of the successors of Babylon, was used to free the Jews and allow them back their customs and stuff like that. So it's very possible. That's one thing I want people to realize is just because this is Babylon, just because this may be whatever it may be, doesn't mean that Yahweh can't set up a ruler in here and do something different than what's been done or use them for the betterment of his people. I'm hoping, like I said, I don't know about Trade Smith said. I thought it was interesting. But I'm very much hoping that that's the case. And you know, to get back on topic a little bit, Jake, what do you think? Who do you see him appointing as cabinet members? I know they've talked about different church people. Obviously, a lot of these people are kind of whacked out. I was going to say wackadocious. I don't think that's a word. They're kind of whacked out, and they're Christians nonetheless. So at least they're not Muslims. At least they're not whatever. But they are kind of a odd character preacher. Some of them are, some of them aren't.
Well, to be
Christian preachers,
to be honest with you, John, at this point, I'm probably not equipped well enough on members of the House, Congress, and cabinet appointments to really speak on that topic. You know, the politics that I kind of have focused on is top level politics with our presidential leaders and some of the immediate people surrounding the president. But I honestly, man, I really don't know who the people to choose are out, who they are right now in Washington. I suspect that there are some, I mean, I know that there are some good people there that we can choose from, but my hope is that new people move up through the ranks that we can choose. And hopefully, man, that this political corruption exposure will continue. I just hope Washington that more and more corruption gets exposed. So enough people kind of, you know, the whole drain the swamp thing, I think is needed. For the people that think drain the swamp is a derogatory, nasty thing, that's just Trump's way of saying, look, we need to drain all the sewage out of this system. It has been, it's cronyism. It's, you know, everybody scratching each other's back to an end to benefit themselves and not our country. You got you got people in Washington that are basically doing all this insider back deal room stuff to benefit them, to line their pockets, and they're not answering for what the people actually want. And I think most Americans are just sick of it, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think everybody's sick of it. Even the people that are voted Democrat, they're sick of it. They just don't realize that the people that they've been voting for are the ones that have brought them to their knees. They don't realize that, you know, they are sick of it too. But they keep voting for people they think is going to do something. And, you know, it was really interesting. I talked to my mom today, and they always loved George Bush. They always loved him. And they told me, you know what, I didn't realize that George Bush and stuff was all this. And I said, yeah, I mean, you know, I told you guys that a long time ago. They're like, yeah, but we didn't know it. And people's eyes are starting to open. And, you know, it's interesting. And it's great to see that people's eyes are opening. You know, okay, so with Trump being who he is. Okay, he's a rich billionaire. He's also owns companies. He owns all kinds of different things. I look at the way he does the stuff that he does, and if he can do this stuff, if he can actually bring our country back from trillions of dollars in debt, do you think it's possible? I mean, is that possible to bring our country back? I mean, obviously, I know you're not an economist. I know you.
Here's my take on it, John. Is this every so often in our nation and in other economies, you reach a point where the country can obtain so much debt that it can no longer operate. At some point in time, once we've crossed the point of no return, which I believe we already have, there has to be an economic reset or depression, right? That's basically God's way of resetting the economy. You're familiar with the Jubilee, right? Which every 50 years, basically all lands were given back to the original rightful owner, slaves were released, so on and so forth. This is God's economic reset, right? Well, in biblical times, people would follow the Jubilee, and then there was the 7-year period. Help me out, John. You know what I'm talking about, if you're still there.
Jubilee, and then are you talking about the
7-year period? Is that also a Jubilee? There's a 50-year and a 7-year?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Jubilee is basically a economic reset that happens that God orders basically to put things back in right. When there's too much debt, it's not good for the overall economic basically situation, right? So God is smart enough, obviously he's smart enough to, he's got these systems in place that people used to follow. They had these laws, right? Well, now man's God is money. And so we go after. And so what happens is when the economy resets itself, we have to follow God's laws, but it's the consequences that happen as a result of not following the Jubilee is that it crashes, right? So everything resets and it crashes on its own. When it crashes on its own, it's not good, but the economy will reset, right? So the key thing is, and Trump made some really good points during his election period, is he's like, look, we spent all this time in Iraq helping Iraq and all these countries out, and they're not paying us anything for it. He's like, we can't expend billions of dollars for war and then not get something back from those countries. And his take is, look, after we get you settled, get everything back in place, you're going to pay us back for what we've done for you. America is loaning money out everywhere. We're helping all over the world, and we're not getting anything back in return because we've been, the Bible says you'll be a lender and not a borrower. Well, the problem is America's been a borrower too, right? And so at some point, man, whether Trump's in or not, the economy is going to have to reset. Now, I believe Trump is probably one of the best people we could have in regards to knowing what to do with this type of economy. He's right on the money, man, when he says we need to bring jobs back to the U.S. We've been trading with China and giving China all these tax breaks. So what's happened is American businesses are selling out and taking their business, contracting out overseas. And so a lot of the GDP that was gross domestic product that was occurring in America has gone over to China and all these countries. So what he wants to do is bring back in the taxes to China and all these other countries, which are going to drive your super cheap products up. It will drive the cost of things up, but it'll also help to reset things. So Walmart, guys, is not going to be as cheap as it used to be. Right now, everything's coming from China with cheap labor, no taxes. They basically have all these exemptions. We're exempting other countries for doing business with us and not ourselves. What he wants to do is put the taxes back overseas, tax these other countries, and then allowing us to compete with these countries here in America by giving our businesses here a chance by reducing taxes of the business internally. And when you reduce taxes of businesses within our country, what will happen is that's a trickle down economics where basically those employers, once they see the tax benefit of having more employees and they get all these breaks for having a certain amount of production and all this, it basically just loosens up the wheels. And so these companies will hire. Well, with the Obama administration, all these cutbacks and all these China deals that Hillary's done and all these politicians have done without us even knowing, what's happened is we have basically become enslaved even more to our debt, and our jobs and economic situation has gotten worse. So I think Trump's plan is sound, man, but is it going to be enough? We may still be looking at a depression or a crash. However, he would be the right guy to help put the pieces back together. You know, when the stock market crashed in 1932 or 1929, I believe, was a big, huge stock market crash. We were a lot better off then, and here's the reason why. In the early 1900s, when our stock market crashed, people still knew how to take care of themselves. People were farmers. They had trades. They knew how to plow the land. They knew how to self-sustain and all these things, right? So when it crashed, people went back to doing what they could do, which is farm, use their hands to do whatever they needed to do. Well, in today's society, we do not know how to take care of ourselves like we used to. So basically, in a crash today, it would be bad news for a lot of people. There are so many people that are dependent upon our government system that the government's only going to be able to help so many people. And at some point, this would result in casualties, riots. I mean, all kinds of terrible stuff. If welfare ever went away, oh my goodness, I would not want to be in a major city, and it will. What's going to happen is at some point, our economy can't keep going the way it's going without some kind of a shift, right? We can't keep pumping money into these welfare systems and all these things. And I believe that there is a place for this for people who do genuinely need the help. But let's face it, there's too many people that are just growing up in a system where they just rely on the government to provide for them, and they pump out kids to basically keep this system going. They work the system, right? They don't have their significant other live in the house with them or be married to them, because when they do that, the government pays out, right? So it's actually one of the things that has kind of promoted promiscuous and unbiblical lifestyle in some of these communities, and why even in the churches it's accepted as commonplace. They just having a boyfriend that you have a child with is okay, because that's how they get paid. They're working the system. So the government is teaching them to live in sin, and we're going to pay you as a result. And then you can vote for us when the time goes around to vote. But anyway, so back to the point, if we do have the economic collapse, which it's not if, it will happen, right? We either correct it ourselves and make the changes needed, or God's going to do it. So when it happens, the welfare system will probably instantly be bankrupt. So will Social Security. So your elderly are going to be in trouble, and also all the welfare people are going to be in trouble. You have some major problems. And John Paul Jackson, he passed on to be with the Lord. He died of cancer end of 2014. But you guys really need to see, it's called The Perfect Storm. And he wrote all this down and did like a 4-video series where he talked about the things that God showed him in America. And he said that there would be a time in America where we would basically come into a Great Depression. And basically we would have spent so much money on war and stuff that we could not afford another war. And we would have to bring our troops back from Iraq and overseas. And he said all this before we even did all this stuff, right? He started saying all this stuff before this came about. Well, we're pulling our troops back from Iraq. We can't afford war anymore. We're so hard pressed. He said what would happen is America would be so hard pressed that basically we would get into a time of crisis where other countries and stuff would begin to attack us and infiltrate, and we wouldn't be able to fully defend ourselves. He said that basically terrorism would become rampant in America, even in rural communities, because the borders had been open for so long. These people are now here. They would begin attacking, and there would be kind of like a revolution where you'd have Christians and militias and stuff like that basically trying to fight back to take care of this. And you would even, he said, have Christians that went in a wrong spirit, basically out to murder these people, and not in a self-defense manner, but just going out and street sweeping, right? Which that's not what God has called us to do as believers. Defending yourself is one thing, but it's a really fascinating prophecy. But he talks about economic collapse. He talks about all these things. He basically said that the Lord showed him food trucks where when they were hauling the food in these like Big Mac trucks, they were taking food and looked like what we have now is like bank trucks. So you literally had armed guards on food trucks to protect food because it was more valuable than anything else. So this is just a little bit of part of it, and I've kind of rambled on a little bit here, John, but go ahead and give in your 2 cents. Am I going the right way you want to talk right now? Or?
Oh, you're right on with a lot of this stuff. I mean, NAFTA, well, you're talking about the trade deficit. NAFTA was a huge problem for our country, major issues. And you're right. If we can take care of some of this debt problem, if we can take care of this trade agreement problem, our dollar will increase. And unfortunately, we have to rely on the dollar. But somebody shared a picture about Putin, what he's done since he's been in office. And wow, what a big difference he made in his country. And so, I mean, if Trump goes the right way, if he does what he says he's going to do, I think he's definitely capable. There's no doubt about it. I think he knows how things work well enough to make it happen. I think that, yeah, things might go up, but also the dollar will go up. So, I mean, I remember back when I was younger, when I was a teenager, and even after, $100 went a long way. $100 is a decent amount of money. Now, $100 doesn't get you anything, man. $100 is nothing. I mean, you go to the grocery store, $100 goes real quick. Back when I was younger, I remember my dad was telling me when I was a kid, they could get $100 worth of groceries and that would feed all the family. That would be it. That would be all they needed. Now, if I just to feed my family, I need to spend at least $300 or $400 a month on groceries, at least, to feed them. And so that's
Doritos. The price of Doritos have gone up.
Yeah. I gotta get my Doritos in, man, and no, it's really sad the way our economy is going. And I hate to just talk about the economy because it is a part of the big problem, though. When you're poor, you look for other ways to make money. A lot of people go down a tube that's not very good. You're right. People are relying on the system, more people than ever. And a lot of those people think it's a good thing to rely on the system. It's become something that of a badge of honor.
Right.
Anymore, but it's definitely not a badge of honor. If you can do without relying on the system, much better, because when you rely on somebody, you basically become a slave to them. And I think that's what the Democratic Party, the liberal agenda, I'm not going to say the Democratic Party because there's some people that have been Democrats for a long time that, Democrats have changed over the years. Democratic parties kind of went up and down different ways. But the liberal agenda is to get everybody relying on the system. So they're slaves. They're no longer anything, and they can easily get rid of them. Their education goes down. When you can dumb people down, they can get rid of you. Okay, so they look at us like cattle, and I look at them as farmers that want to kill the whole stock. They're not just, they don't want to make money off their stock. They want to kill the stock. They want to dumb down the stock so much that it's going to be really easy to kill them all off. It's a game to them, and like the elite agenda to take the population down that you see in the Georgia Guidestones. This is something that they have in mind. I mean, you look at everything that's been going on, Jake. You look at the vaccinations. You look at all the things that they've done to really just destroy humanity. Not only vaccination, diseases that have been introduced, all that stuff. It's really sad what's been going on, and I really do think that Trump can turn the financial situation around. But the moral issue is the most important thing. And I just want people to remember this. I'll let you say something here, but I want people to remember that our only true savior, Trump is not our savior. He is a man. Our only true savior is Yeshua. And when he comes back, then things will get set exactly right. We can't expect things to be perfect. We can only hope that we can be well enough to survive, to have blessings. But in order to be blessed, the Bible gives a specific guideline on our lives to be blessed. And sometimes we're blessed when we don't deserve it. But if we want to keep and hold on to this, we have to keep going. Don't let up on things just because things are going good, because that's been the problem. Like I said before, with all generations, things go good, we let up, we let our guard down. So what happened in America? Things were going really, really good for a while. We let our guard down. We let Hollywood slip in with their little jabs, turning our minds into mush. We let the politicians creep in and do things behind our back that they didn't know. All these things, they had to take control somehow. And the best way to take control is when you make people immoral. When you make people immoral, control is easy for the Luciferians. When people are living according to the standards that Yahweh has set before us, you can't take that down. You can't even curse them. Balaam, in the Bible, it talks about that he couldn't, there was no curse that they could put upon the children of Israel until they started acting out in sexual misconduct and idolatry and all the food sacrifices to idols. They couldn't put a curse. And so
Right.
you got to think about that. Am I allowing myself to be cursed? Because they're doing it. We've already showed, we showed you this, and a lot of people, William Snowden show you this. A lot of people all over the place are showing you these different things that they got going on, that they're really putting curses on us. So are you going to allow yourself to be cursed, or are you going to, in spite of things being good or bad? Because when it's bad, it's easy to draw close to Yahweh. It's really easy. It's so easy to draw close to him. When things are good, it's a little bit easier to rely on yourself. So we got to remember, when things are good, we still give, we help, we do everything we can, we remain humble, and we remain strong. Anyways, go ahead, Jake. We got about,
Yeah.
I want to encourage you, Jake, to join our chat over there, and we can I'll let you talk, and then the last few minutes we can kind of just talk to people.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us in chat. I've seen some rough language and some stuff over there, unfortunately, but for all you guys that have stuck in with us and contributed, and your awesome comments and feedback, I've been watching. Sabrina, Wesley, Lauren, Cookie Mama. What's that?
You're looking at the YouTube.
Oh, I'm looking at the YouTube. Okay, crud. Okay, yes. I'll need to go to your website. So you've got a totally different chat going on YouTube that is not in any way filtered. And
Not at all.
There is some colorful stuff going on in there, but that's what I've been watching. Yeah. That's what
ring. There's a lot of good people. And for those of you that would like to join our fellowship chat, in the description of the video, there is a link for you to join our fellowship chat. I know some of you can't because you're on a mobile, so you have to chat on there. And I understand, but yeah, the YouTube is kind of just, it's every man for himself. Unfortunately, we've had people moderate before, a couple people. Some of them weren't reliable. Some of them were, backdoor issues and stuff like that. We just kind of cut it all out because I can't monitor it while I'm doing the show. It's impossible.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Gladiator Arena style pretty much covers it. I'm seeing people decapitated, limbs shred. I mean, if you put this in a visual format, it would be just basically a bloodbath. So
we got little teeny boppers that come on there and talk trash to people.
Yeah, and a lot of people just see Trump, and because they're so indoctrinated in their party system or whatever, they're trained to call him a racist bigot, and so you get a lot of that type of stuff. But so anyways, let's just take this back. So we talked about the economy and all this. I just want to remind people and bring you back to kind of what happened in Joseph's time. We talked about the children of Israel being delivered. How this can play out, folks, in regards to economics, may be a repeat of what we saw like in ancient Israel, where Joseph was actually used to save people from starvation, right? God used him to basically protect everyone from the famine. So his people were saved, right? Well, Joseph's family had migrated now to Egypt. So you have these people of his bloodline, the Jews there now, right? A large part of the population. And what happened was the famine hit. People could not afford, they couldn't afford the grain. So they went to the government to supply them with the grain. And I believe it was the first year, the first several years, they offered their homes up or something as basically to sell it back, like for food, right? And then they gave their cattle. And then it got to the point where all they had left was to sell themselves into slavery to acquire the food, right? So the people went into slavery. You had the ancient Jews in slavery then for that period of time, for all those years, and then they were finally delivered. Well, in a modern day society, what that could look like in regards to being sold into slavery is debt is the conduit to which you're actually sold into that slavery. You can no longer afford to pay back your debt. The government is bankrupt, and so they call back all debts and say, okay, if you owe us for a mortgage, you're going to pay off this mortgage. And the people say, oh, well, we can't sell you the mortgage. And so they're like, fine, your property now belongs to us. You can live in your property. If you follow our guidelines, you take this chip, you're going to follow our rules, you will get your square place to live based on what we say you can live, and you will have X job, and you will get X amount of money for food and all the things that you need. So how that could look in our modern day society is God basically allowing people to go into this slavery with like an economic reset. I tend to believe, though, man, according to Revelation, it says that there will be basically one of the seals is broken, and the angel talks about the sickle reaping the earth, for the harvest is ripe. Well, I talked about this with David Carrico the other night. Currently, there's 6 billion people on the face of the planet, right? 2.2 billion people on the planet self-identify as Christians. Out of the 2.2 billion people that identify themselves as Christians, 1.2 billion of them are Catholic, right? And as we know, in Catholicism, you have a lot of religion, but there's a lot of people that are not genuinely saved, right? So let's just say that half of those are legitimate Christians, which it's probably a lot less than that. But let's just say you're down to 1 billion people. Let's just knock it down to 1 billion. You now have 1 in 6 people that are actually saved. So less than 25% of the population. You're talking now basically like 15, I think, percent of the population we're saying is saved right now, currently legitimately saved. And out of that 1 billion people that also self-identify as Christians that aren't Catholic, how many of those genuinely aren't saved? So now you're going down lower and lower and lower. I mean, you're down below like 10% people who are actually genuinely saved. Now, would you say that an earth populated with 10% people who are legitimately saved is ripe for a harvest? 10% out of 6 billion? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. That's why I believe there will be a last day revival that comes. Thousands, millions of people will get saved. And a lot of people are getting saved today. I'm not discrediting that, but we're talking like huge numbers. I believe we'll get to the point, man, where 50% of the globe is saved, or 30%, or whatever. I believe that we will get to that point during a short period of time of revival, and then God will reap the harvest. And my belief is this, is the reason that he does it at that point in time is because he knows that mankind is wicked, that he's evil, that men are easily turned back, that people can go back to their ways or whatever. I believe that he will reap that harvest while the people are ready, so he can basically receive as much of his reward for his son dying as he can out of his grace and mercy. I believe he does that for so many Christians, John, that when they go into eternity, it's at the time when they're ready. He spares them. Man, there's been times, John, my life has been really messed up when I was younger, living in a lot of sin. I accepted Christ at the age of 6. I heard the voice of the Lord when I asked Jesus to come into my heart. I heard an audible voice say, yes, will you come into my heart? I heard the voice of the Lord, yes. Got saved at the age of 6, man. There's so many times in my life that it was just jacked up. I was not living for the Lord. And so when I look at that, man, people say once saved, always saved. Well, I look at it as, if I died in my sin, man, I believe that I would not have gone to be with the Lord. And so I thank God out of his grace and mercy, man, he spares us and he protects us for the appointed time, man. He brings us to an expected end. Even at the times, man, when we don't follow him, he is still gracious. He is still loving. He loves us just like we love our kids, and he doesn't want any to perish. And that's why I believe, man, on all sides of the table that there are good things ahead, that there is, in fact, a revival coming. And yes, the Antichrist will come. All these things will happen in the end time. But first, I believe we have to see that revival come. So go ahead and give your input, John.
No, you're exactly right. The revival and I've thought about this myself. I know the 2 witnesses. I think somebody said that in the chat there. I didn't have my camera on. I think because somebody said that in chat, the 2 witnesses, when they get here, will speak fire and revival as well. I hope that there is a revival, and I do agree that when at the peak of whatever revival it is going to be what it depends on what you would classify the harvest. I know we might have different opinions on what that would be,
right,
or when that'll be, what will take place during that time. But at the same time, you're right. People's hearts are quickly changed because the pressures of this world are tough, and Yahweh knows that we've got everything coming against us, especially in America. It's really hard to live a solid life for the Messiah. It's so hard, and not because we don't love him, but because there's everything here built. It's like an amusement park. Everything, your mind, just to distract your mind from what's true. Watching the television in general is enough to distract your mind. Which, I mean, I watch TV sometimes. I mean, I like watching stuff every now and then. I don't have time to do it much, but when I do, I enjoy sometimes being able to sit and just watch something without having to be, and it is few and far between, and I think I enjoy it more because it's few and far between. So like maybe if maybe 1 hour or 2 hours a week is about all I have time for to watch TV, which I'm glad that's all I have time for, because a lot of these people, that's all they do. And think about how your mind is molded by watching TV. You look at the television for 8 hours a day. Some people, I don't remember what the average, but I think if you can look that up for me, but the average amount of TV time people watch is way up there. And so when you're looking at stuff that is made, it's called programming for a reason. It's made to program your mind to thinking a certain way. And Hollywood is great at it. Most people don't realize this, but Hollywood, the wood of Holly is what magicians and what witches and people that practice divinations, they make their little, what are they called? Their wands out of Hollywood. Most of the people that run Hollywood, obviously, people know that these are witches. The people that control the media that we watch, the Fox News, the CNN, all these different companies, guess who owns these people? The same people that own everything else. They're the people that own this. So they're really good at putting things in your mind to make you believe a certain way. It doesn't take a whole lot to really convince somebody to say one thing or another, or to believe one thing or another. It doesn't take a lot. In fact, they can do it subconsciously. I watched a thing where they were guessing people's numbers, what they were thinking. What they didn't realize, they had been following that person around during the day and showing them these numbers throughout the day. They didn't even know they were seeing them. They were just seeing them. Their subconscious was seeing this number all day long. Somebody was going around. They posted it on a TV screen as they walked by. They had a sign up that had the number on it. It was just happening all over the place. Somebody comes up to them, asking them to pick a number. They picked the exact number that they've been showing them all day long. So it's the same kind of scenario with what we watch on TV, what we see, all this stuff. And I think without this stuff in infiltrating our minds and doing this stuff, we would have a lot better life in general. This whole world is designed to mess with us. And you're right, people go off the track quick because of that reason right there. When you have something that's constantly trying to get your mind, steal your mind, to imprison your mind constantly, all the time, it's so easy. And then it's also easy to forget about God during times when you don't feel him much. It's easy to happen. I know with me, I there's times when I'm like, I don't feel God with me right now. I don't feel like he's guiding me down my step. I know that but of course he's not, I have to remember, and people have to remember that you're not always going to feel God guiding every step that you make all the time, but he is, whether you feel it or not. And now that I lived long enough to realize this, I've seen puzzle pieces come together. I've seen this path take place that's led me to the point that I'm at during this whole time, that I'm wondering, like, what am I supposed to do? Where's God in the situation? What am I supposed to do? He was literally making my path for me, and I'm walking down this path, and I didn't even know it until I saw the puzzle come together. And so we have to remember that. And then also when you talk about things like what I was talking about in good times, and a lot of times when things are good, it's easier for you to rely on yourself for stuff. And when you rely on yourself, you don't have to cry out to God. When things are bad, you have to cry out to God. That's why I think it's so important, people. And this is, this has nothing to do with what I was just saying. It kind of does, but when it's so important that when things are good, you still cry out to him. You still want him, and you still desire him, because money doesn't mean anything. Money is nothing. Money means nothing. I can promise you that. And this I've developed over the years, especially when I was younger, the things that I did, I developed almost a disdain for money. I wish I didn't have to have money. I wish I didn't have to have it to live or survive, because that was my God before I came to believe. Before I was a believer, money was literally my God. I did anything for it. I would do whatever it took to get it. It didn't matter who I had to hurt, what person I had to do what to, what I had to sell to this person, what I sold did to the other people. It didn't matter if I had to take it from somebody, literally take it out of their hands. I wanted to get it, and I was going to get it because I loved it so much. So after becoming a believer, I developed a hate for money. And I think that's what the Bible says. You can't love God and man. You either love one or you hate the other. Once I switched to God's team, I hated money. I literally hated it. And you can't let yourself creep in with this idea of money being great. Money. It's good to have money. It's good to be financially well off, because or not necessarily well off, but it's good to be able to take care of your family. It's good to be able to have food to eat, and it's good to be able to help others. That's such a big thing right there.
When the Bible talks about leaving an inheritance that a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children and his grandchildren. So, I mean, it is biblical to have, to be blessed with the substance of the fruits of your labor,
Mm-hmm.
And that's different. That's different than greed and the love of money. Here's the thing. We live in a material world that everything we do requires money. I mean, you're not going to be able to abstain from this system. I mean, when the Antichrist system is established fully, I mean, yeah, we'll be looking at a scenario like that where you're bartering and stuff for your goods. But right now, as a believer, you cannot really escape the fact that you need money to survive. That's part of our daily life. In the days of, ancient Israel, shekels, and I guess they're still using shekels today, but they had a form of currency. There's always going to be some form of currency. So it's not the currency that's wicked. What it is when the currency takes away the life of its owner. I remember stories of these guys on Wall Street where they would make millions and millions of dollars during the day. And then at nighttime, they were so greedy for money, they would actually go down to the street and pretend to be homeless on the street and basically beg for money and see who could get the most money out of people pretending to be a homeless person. So they would spend all day working the markets, and then they would go out on the weekend and pretend to be homeless just to see how much money. So it was just again, just a greed thing. It's insane.
Yeah. And I think, it's somebody said in the chat, I don't know if you're in our chat yet, Jake, but
yeah, I'm there now. So I'm in the Christian chat now.
Well, it's a chat that's regulated.
Yeah, I hear you.
And it's actually better too, because you can scroll all the way up and look at all the past conversation.
Right. There's
a lot of good things about it that over YouTube, and I really one day I'd love to have somebody be able to moderate YouTube. We've had several moderators, a couple of them that did pretty good. Well, one of them in particular that kind of stabbed us in the back with stuff, so we stopped doing it.
Yeah, I understand.
Because when you allow somebody to moderate, you also give them control over a lot of other things on your comment list. If you allow a moderator, you also allow them to delete comments off of other videos. They can delete any video like that. So,
and there's so many people watching right now, man. There's like hundreds of people tuned in, and so I can see how it can get out of control quickly. And you guys that are in the YouTube chat, most of you I know are behaving. There's a few of you that, yeah, you can say whatever you want, but you can also run doo-doo out of your mouth too. I mean, that's. If you talk vile, I mean, this is not the group of people that we're going to be doing that. So I think that's great, man, that you have more of a moderated chat room as well, where people can share ideas and be involved and feel like they don't have to be subjected to, just all the hate mongering and trolling out there. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah, and Debug Games. Yeah, we could turn the chat off on YouTube, but I want to give people the opportunity that can't get on our chat yet, because sometimes when you're on mobile, you can't get on our chat. I want to give them the opportunity to be able to talk. Unfortunately, I can't moderate everything. There's usually a couple of people that stay around that are annoying, and you can, I really would love to have another moderator. Trust me. It would have to be somebody that I can trust, because like I said, we've had issues with having another moderator before. But I do want to give people opportunity to chat and sometimes talk, because to be honest, your numbers suffer on how many people are watching when you don't have a YouTube chat. There's no doubt about that. So
I'm just cracking up at some of the stuff I'm seeing. There's people saying they've got a doo-doo mouth, and it's ridiculous. It's very entertaining though. So anyways.
Well, I'm going to go in there and watch for just a second. I'll kick a couple people if I have to. I mean, is everybody?
For the most part, they're behaving. There's a few people dropping some F-bombs and stuff. I mean, man, again, it's like when you have this stuff open, anybody can come in and say whatever. And, that's the thing. Like, people do have freedom of speech and stuff like that. But in this type of situation, when you're sharing biblically based worldviews, you want to have a group of like-minded people that will respect each other. And yeah, at the point in time where someone's being just terrible, you want to have the option to be able to, just say, well, at this point, maybe you need to go elsewhere, So, but yeah, a moderator, man, that I'll be praying for you guys that God will open up the door for a moderator, because I think that'd be great, man. Because there's a lot of great people here in the YouTube chat that unfortunately they're just being subjected to all this garbage as well as the good stuff. And for all you guys that are there in the YouTube chat, I encourage you, go to John's, is it your website to get in the chat, John? How do they get to your He's got this really awesome chat system. It's amazing. Tell him about it, John, real quick.
If you look on the description of the video that you're chatting on, it says Trump chosen by God to stop America's destruction prophecy discussion, and it says live chat, and it's got a link. If you click on that link, it'll take you right to our page, and you'll see right there how to do it. You can even open up chat in another window. If you're on your PC, you can open it up in another window. Like I'll show you how I got it set up right here. But I got it set up to where I can see the mobile chat over here, and then I can see.
Oh yeah, okay.
There, so it's pretty nice. But you definitely come check that out. And also, if you're new to this show, subscribe to the channel if you like what you're hearing. We talk about interesting stuff all the time, sometimes really deep and really interesting stuff a lot. So subscribe to our channel. And if you want to sign up for our email, if you go to our nowuseetv.org, that site that link takes you to, you can go to the I think at the very bottom of the screen it says you can sign up, and you can become part of the mailing list. Every day when we have a show, we send you an email about 30 minutes before the show reminding you, hey, we're getting ready to go live. And obviously, if you subscribe to YouTube, they send you a notification. You can go to Facebook, Now You See TV on Facebook, like our page on there, and we post updates on there. If you get connected in Twitter, one of those ways, you'll find out about everything going on, so you won't lose track of what we're doing. And we'd love to see you guys on there. But we love the people that are in our chat over here, so we do protect it. If you come over this chat and you start talking smack or you start dogging down people, we will delete you in a heartbeat and ban your IP. So just to let you know, you can come over and be civil, and you can be disagreeable. You can disagree with stuff, no problem. But once you start talking smack to people and hurting people and saying mean things or whatever, you're gone in a heartbeat.
Well, and I want to invite people again, John, that not just your viewers here that watch, but also people that are out there on the YouTube channel that are subscribing to stuff. If you go to seek4truth.org, it's here right on my page. That's my website. You can also go to my YouTube channel at Seek4Truth. I've got a lot of great stuff on there, including right now, actually some interviews that I did with John on the Babylon Now series, where we talk about, kind of it's called Babylon Now, talking about mainstream media and kind of a lot of the occultic messages. We basically analyze down to kind of like a gnat what's going on in our mainstream media, what's going on in your television. Not saying that you should stop watching TV necessarily, but just basically how to look at it and analyze it and basically break down all the occult stuff behind the scenes that you may not even connect with. Like we did one on Peter Pan, Theosophist Roots of Peter Pan. Fascinating show. We had David Carrico on, and I believe Gary Wayne as well. And we broke down the whole story behind the guy that wrote Peter Pan, his Theosophist mentality, all the occult stuff going on there. Johnny Depp's fascination with Neverland, because the original guy that wrote the story was occultic. That's why he wanted to star in Finding Neverland as this pedophile. The guy was basically kind of like a pedophile, right? So Johnny Depp always plays weird roles. And when he did this film, I was like, why did he pick this? Like, there's nothing really strange about this. And after finding a little bit more out, I realized a little more in depth kind of what was going on there. And so John kind of brought us into the West Memphis 3 scenario with Johnny Depp and all the occult ties and stuff like that. So, John, I'd really like to do some more Babylon Nows, at least bi-weekly or something when you get time, man. And we
definitely got to get that going again, because we had a lot of fun on that show, and it was really, really good. It was probably one of the better shows that me and you've done together as a Babylon Now. I mean, we talked about some pretty deep, crazy stuff on there, and it's awesome. So definitely, I think we should go. I want to thank everybody for listening tonight. It's been a blessing to be able to talk to you guys. I hope that we didn't bore you to tears, and I hope that you come back and listen again. But I want to thank Jake for coming on, and it was interesting, man. We'll have to do this again sometime. There's a lot of nights that we talk about interesting subjects, and I think that we definitely need to get Babylon now.
Man, I'd love to. And John, if you have a night that you think there's an interesting topic that you would like me to join, be part of the panel, man, I really love doing this, guys. I'm not doing this
last night, man. I tried to get you on last night.
I know, and I should have. If I had to go back, I would have, man, because I was up till 3 a.m. texting with Josh Peck and my boss Joe Horn. Man, we were sending texts back and forth all night talking about what was going on. I should have just joined the party. It would have been fascinating. really interesting stuff to kind of talk about in real time, what we see going on,
Yeah, we had a good time. A lot of people called into, a lot of our listeners, and talked, and it was really good. They had a lot of really good insight on this stuff. We have a very smart audience. There's no doubt about it. I feel just blessed to be in the same league with a lot of these people. So, but anyways, guys, thank you so much. Like I said, subscribe, whatever, go to Jake's channel, check him out. The Sharpening Report, as he does shows on there, Seek for Truth. Hopefully we'll get Babylon Now going again, but either way, we're thrilled to talk about you guys. And anytime, if there's any updates on what's going on with all this stuff, I don't want to be constantly talking about politics on this channel, but at the same time, I enjoy following stuff like this because this is an interesting time. This is something that I didn't see happening, so we wanted to talk a little bit about it. But shalom, and until next time, this is Now You See TV, and I'm your host, John Pounders. Shalom, high five. Psh. Blessings, guys.